Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Inner Ear Secrets, the podcast that uncovers what's really going on in the world of hearing. I'm Veronica.
And I'm Tiffany, and we're both clinical audiology students at the University of Melbourne. Today, we're stepping outside the audiology bubble just a little because hearing loss doesn't happen in isolation. Especially in older adults, it often comes with another sensory challenge, vision loss.
That's right. We tend to think of hearing and vision as separate issues, something for the audiologist, something for the optometrist. But when both senses are affected, the consequences are much more serious than either one alone. We're talking about real impacts on a person's ability to communicate, move around safely, take part in social life, and stay independent.
One example of this overlap is diabetes. It's a condition that doesn't just affect blood sugar, it also increases the risk of both hearing loss and vision problems like diabetic retinopathy. So, for people living with diabetes, dual sensory loss isn't just a possibility, but it's a very real concern that calls for a closer collaboration across healthcare disciplines.
In fact, research shows that adults with dual sensory loss are more likely to experience social isolation, increased risk of falls, cognitive decline, and even earlier placement in residential care. Yet, despite this, hearing and vision issues are often underreported and undertreated.
And on top of that, when it comes to managing devices like hearing aids and glasses, it's not always very straightforward. Behind the ear devices can clash with glasses, and low vision can make hearing aid controls very hard to see. Also, noisy or poorly lit environments can make communication even harder for them.
So today we're asking, how can we do better? How can audiologists and optometrists work together and identify, manage, and support people living with dual sensory loss?
To help us explore this, we're joined by a very special guest, someone who's uniquely qualified to speak to both sides of the picture. Lachlan Smith is a qualified optometrist and audiologist with extensive experience supporting older adults in both clinical and community settings.
Hi, Lachlan. Thanks
Hey,
for joining us today.
thank
Could you
you.
briefly introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yeah, my name's Lachlan. As mentioned, I'm an optom and audiologist, and I've been doing this for quite a while now, 14 odd years. So initially started off as a audiologist and opened a clinic in Melbourne. My dad and my sister are optometrists as well. And then after completing kind of the optom study, took over the businesses and they're now dual clinics in Melbourne. And I also do a lot of outreach work in kind of Western Queensland where we do eye and ear testing throughout kind of the northwest.
Oh, wow, we're really excited to learn from your perspective today because there aren't many clinicians out there who are qualified in both what and optom. And we're really curious what inspired you to pursue both degrees. Was there a particular moment or experience that made you want to bridge those two fields?
My main passion was working in Indigenous health. After working in Aboriginal ear health, I saw lots of gaps that could be filled with eye health as well. So, yeah, I was spanned on from that to kind of do some further study. And yeah, I've been able to kind of do that and work in those environments and then also kind of couple that with my own businesses.
Yeah. So, with those experience in mind, so what's the functional impact you see when someone presents with both vision and hearing loss?
Yeah, well, it's obviously difficult. And I think the people that have kind of both sensory, eye and ear issues, they really do appreciate someone viewing their issues that they're having from both dimensions. So I think if someone's coming in for an eye or an ear test, we're obviously going to be focused on that particular organ, the eye or the ear. But often they'll
Mm,
have many other issues going on with their body, and some chronic diseases are affecting multiple parts of the body. Diabetes is a good example where it's more than just blood
yeah.
sugar kind of management. It's going to be having impacts on huge portions of their body as well, from obviously more than just the eyes or the ears or the diet, their ability to function, and that goes across multiple different clinicians. So you'll be liaising with GPs, OTs, potentially dietitians as well, to kind of help them out and view them not just as that particular issue, but all the issues that they're facing.
Yeah, people often underestimate how much losing both senses can compound the challenges that someone's facing, especially with chronic diseases or if they're older adults. But even their independence, safety, and mental health can deteriorate because they're losing both
Yeah, for sure.
senses.
And that will come along where you'll often see people over the years who are initially able to drive to their appointments, and then a few years later, they'll need a carer or a taxi to bring them in, and then eventually, potentially, some type of walking aid, low vision aid.
Mm,
And that's just in regards to the vision as well. So, when people start losing their vision, they'll become more reliable on just other people. And
mm,
that's obviously humbling for them. If they're not able to drive anymore, it makes them more sedentary. And then that also goes hand in hand with kind of age and also with maybe
mhm.
early onset Alzheimer's or memory issues as well. And if you couple that with hearing isolation, these things can kind of compound pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Is there any patterns in how or when they tend to present? For example, are there sensory losses picked up early or often missed until they really start impacting daily life?
Yeah, it's a good point. For example, especially in rural Queensland where we work, we often might see people getting referred because their diabetic numbers are too high. So we'll get a lot of GPs or diabetic educators kind of initially, identifying someone with high blood sugars and getting them sent in. And these people can often be in their 20s. When we do a diabetic eye test, their diabetic retinopathy is very significant. Often when that happens, those people would have never been coming in to have an eye test because their vision is fine. But just because their vision is
Mhm.
fine doesn't necessarily mean that their eye health is fine. And if that's left, or often it may even be too late without intensive intervention, they're going to have significantly affected vision, often in their mid 30s. So, uh, and then the quality of life after that and their management after that is impacted.
Yeah, it's really clear that identifying these issues early, especially in high risk groups, as you mentioned, can make a really big difference. So, how do audiologists support people with both hearing and vision loss to choosing the right hearing aids, the right assistive devices, or just, as you mentioned, they work with other
Yeah.
professionals like the GP? Are there any other professionals that they meet to meet their needs as well?
Yeah, well, it will vary on the person. It's going to vary on
Mm-hmm.
how bad or the comorbidities that they're going to have, if it's going to be vision or dexterity, or if it's cognition or
Yeah.
hearing. But a lot of these things do go hand in hand, and a lot of these things might also be affecting people with potentially some type of like FASD presentations as well. So just their ability to recall and implement the actions that you're requesting them to do might be a little bit over their head at times. If they're having difficulties hearing, seeing, or just understanding what's going on, if there's a language barrier as well, it's going to make it very difficult. But I would generally say a lot of the more complicated presentations really need people to go really pretty slow, repeat things many times.
Mm,
You might have to just, honestly, when we're, doing hearing aid fitting or whatnot, we've done it many, many times. And it's the first time that they might have even seen a hearing aid. So simple things like
mhm.
putting in a battery, and then you've got to
Yeah.
understand if they're low vision, maybe that battery's not going to work. Often in Queensland, there'll be people with recurrent middle ear infection. Conventional hearing aids aren't going to work, so you need to consider maybe a bone hearing aid, or just things that are more user friendly. So maybe a headband option, or just like some type of ALD, which might kind of be a bit more clunky, but for them it's really just way more easier for them to manage. It might be less batteries, or you might only have to change the batteries once a year rather than every week. So little things like that, you just need to be quite adaptable with what is presented to you. What's
Mm,
right for one person won't necessarily be right for another person. If you're in a nursing home and these people have kind of
Mhm.
kidney disease, or if they're on dialysis regularly, or if their memory's not so good, a battery functional hearing aid might not be the best option. I've seen that before, and
yeah.
people just have
Yeah.
these hearing aids that are relatively expensive, and there's a battery that's been in there for literally like 2 years. In regards to glasses, multifocal glasses, the glasses that are essentially kind of changing power from distance to reading are not good with elderly people. They're more likely to fall, and there has been,
Yeah.
studies based on that as well. So just kind of being aware of kind of what does and doesn't work, maybe using things like low vision aids to kind of couple in with that. And some people are more okay with technology, so you have to kind of just broach that subject. There's been some really good improvements on low vision aids and use with kind of iPhone and contrast sensitivity that has really helped some people. But if they're not at that position to use that technology, that has to be considered. You can then liaise with people like an OT to kind of help with that, but that might just be kind of over their scope of ability, and just kind of figure out what works for who, and liaising with people that you might not have really thought. So dietitians are really good, OTs are really good, sometimes speech pathology as well. So, and diabetic educators. Mm.
That's that's very extensive. I was also wondering, when we're fitting someone with a hearing aid for the first time, but they have vision loss as well, how would you differentiate the left and right for them? Because usually we would be like, oh, the left is the blue one, the right is the red one. Go
Yeah, that's
around with
happened quite a
those.
few times. So you need to just
Mhm.
think outside the box and almost think from their own perspective. So if their vision isn't very good and they're not really able to tell the difference between blue and red that well, simply just putting the hearing aids in different boxes. Okay, so you'll have a box for the red one and a box for them. They'll be
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
sizes. If they're rechargeable, you might even get them two charges. Or alternatively, it's kind of easier to tell if it's left or right just by the orientation of the receivers and whatnot. But it makes it a little bit more difficult,
Yeah.
and if they're older,
Yeah.
usually little things like that can help pretty well. I had someone just last month, and she was very like severely affected with diabetic retinopathy, but also she had just like a severe hearing loss and middle ear discharge. So she got fit with essentially like some type of kind of headband hearing aid that she's done super, super well in. Initially, I thought she'd just be okay with kind of a rechargeable hearing aid, but she wasn't able to put it in. So, kind of I was like, oh, we'll start with this, see how she goes with it. But after that, it wasn't really working. She lost them once and she found them later. So, yeah, just figuring out what works for the person is important.
Yeah. That's a very nice insight. So, right now, before we let you go, we're going to throw you some rapid fire
Yeah,
questions.
sure.
Just first thing that comes to mind.
Yep.
Manual tuning or automatic programs?
Automatic.
Real year measures or visual field testing?
REMS.
Is there any reason?
Oh, you do get ability to verify it as well, and that. But on the other
Yeah.
hand, there has been. I did a bit of research, and there has been
Mhm.
a lot more work coming out doing with online visual field
Mhm.
testing, which is an
Mhm.
online color vision testing as well, which is
Yeah.
becoming more prevalent. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. Most underrated part of dual sensory care.
The ability to really make impacts on people's lives and track them as well, and they're very
Mhm.
thankful with the assistance and care.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. One assistive device you wish more patients knew about.
Yeah, the new apps for vision loss that are available on
Mhm.
some of the newer iPhones at the moment, which really are using AI and some very good technology to convert speech into writing, which they can see, which is in a high contrast kind of environment, which has made real
Okay.
leaps and bounds.
Your go-to tip for helping older adults manage glasses and hearing aids.
A lot of older people just have a huge amount of wax. So really, and just regular appointments, because a lot
Mhm.
of people think I'll only come in when
Yeah.
there's a problem, but often the problems are really simple to fix. So coming in
Yeah.
regular for wax removal and kind of wax assessments is important.
Amazing. Thanks so much,
No
Lockie.
problem.
This has been a very valuable conversation for us. It's not every day that we get to hear both sides.
I'm very blessed. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely.
Have a great
Well,
afternoon.
We love having you
Thank
on.
you.
No problem. Bye.
To everyone tuning in, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. We'll be back soon with more conversations across disciplines, right here on Inner Ear Secrets. Until next time, bye.
Bye.